Good evening, everyone. Wednesday, January 26th. Time for episode 16 of The Last Admiral. We'll start right in with the reading on page 126, 127. Where Wraith and Fu were battling the demonic entity known as Rakshasa. Okay. Time was now Wraith's enemy. He would have to risk an open fight. Battling a raging beast head-on was far too direct for his liking, and a very non-roguish thing to do. But he was much more than that now. Summoning his strength, he attacked the cat on its injured side. Rakshasa anticipated his move and swept across his body with his titanic left paw. Wraith cut at it, but he was committed and could not dodge the blow. The cat's power was awesome. He was hurled for many yards, but his armor held against Rakshasa's talons. Rolling with it, he picked himself up. By some miracle, he still held both of his weapons. Looking back, Wraith saw that Rakshasa was airborne and leaping in for the kill. Letting out a battle cry of his own, he swung his rapier with all his might. It was then that Fu's spear struck Rakshasa's heart. The tiger felt the stabbing pain, but he was now of only one mind: destroy the guildmaster and tear him limb from limb. The tiger had no sooner fallen upon Wraith than another searing pain erupted at the base of Rakshasa's neck. Wrapping the thief up in a massive hug, he sought to bring his hind claws and teeth to bear on him when something strong grabbed his tail. Rakshasa then realized that he had underestimated the young islander. He should have remembered that heroes of the people had killed his host bodies before, and that they were tenacious opponents once they put their minds to it. Something strong gripped his tail. Hurling Wraith into the jungle, he curled inward to slaughter Fu. Utter disbelief filled his mind as he flew across the clearing and into the muddy wallow behind them. His anger had never before reached such an astounding limit as it did in that moment. Rising up from the mire, he gathered himself and prepared to leap. Grasping the spear in his side with his teeth, he pulled it free and snapped it in two. His blood flowed freely. Immediately, his wounds began to heal. Scanning the woods with his demonic psyche, he read his enemies' minds. "Wraith, Wraith," he purred. "Your struggles are admirable, but since my creation, there is naught that can kill me but the blessed barb. Witness my body's rebirth. Your weapons are nothing to me." The Dark Elfar had spent millennia consorting with demons and other foul creatures of evil, and Wraith didn't doubt the boasts of Rakshasa, but his blades had hurt the entity. Of that he was certain. His answer was action. His lance was lightning. Targeting the massive trees around the clearing, Wraith began to lay them low, blasting their bases to splinters and toppling them toward Rakshasa. His girdle glowed with brilliant light, and all who witnessed it from afar believed it to be a mighty struggle indeed. Fu, too, had heard Rakshasa's words and remembered the blessing that his father had placed upon his arrows when he had come to manhood. Was that blessing granted for this very purpose? He could not be certain that his father's island magic, done with love, and honor, was blessing enough for this challenge. Choosing his straightest, most well-balanced arrow, he nocked it. Searching through the chaos, he waited for any chance that might come. Wraith was like an enraged will-o'-the-wisp, a ball of racing light, hurling heaven's fire toward their foe. Rakshasa knew their thoughts as it was his power, but the witches racked his spirit. He had no choice but to finish the fight. Trees fell around him, but his agility was their master. Soon he stood atop of them. He was thinking now, his anger in check. Summoning his will, he invoked a dense mist, like a fog rolling in from a cooling sea. Neither Fu nor Wraith could hit what they could not see. Moving with the silence of a hunting cat, he crept toward his prey. Fu's eyes strained to their limits. Besides Wraith's light, the darkness and the fog blinded him. Backing himself against a tree, ankle deep in mud, he came to full draw and waited, listening. His senses were alive, driven by his fear, most of which was gone now, replaced by that same calm that he had found while stranded hopelessly at sea. The fires compromised Wraith's night vision, but his magical light might prove enough for them both if he was fast enough. Moving quickly, he felt his way through the mist and litter of the fallen trees. Rakshasa was already at a run when Wraith glimpsed him, leaping with jaws of hell brought wide, when he cried out, "Now, Fu! Shoot him now!" Fu saw nothing. He heard nothing of Rakshasa, but he trusted this man. Releasing his grip, the blessed barb flew, passing through Rakshasa's open maw and into his heart. The barb consumed Rakshasa's power, and the great body of the tiger that had housed him fell. Landing at Fu's feet, Rakshasa was dead, and his mist faded. A dozen trees lay smoldering around them, and a few stubborn fires burned, but the jungle was wet, and it had nowhere to go. The tiger's body was huge, greater than either of them had ever seen, but the evil presence seemed to be gone. "He is finished," Fu observed. "I have a feeling that we may meet him again, Fu," Wraith said. "Just not today. In time, he will likely possess another, and then it will be up to another hero to stop him." "If we survive," Fu declared, "I'm coming back for his hide." "And I'll help you to skin him," Wraith affirmed. "But now we have to go. The sisters know that we are here, and they will soon send something else against us." Wraith's girdle dimmed, and the dark crept in. "I will lead you from here," Wraith stated. Sheathing his swords, he bundled his beard and tossed it over his right shoulder, as was his habit. "Stay quiet. Look to the horizon. The dawn is here." In the next chapter, the Enraged sisters plot against the guildmaster. Two rogues duel to the death. "Rakshasa has failed," Susu cursed. Odo cracked her whip in agreement. "Who now shall we summon? I sense no more abysmal entities on the island. The old ones remain in the caverns below us, but they are too far, too deep. We must engage him ourselves." "I shall help Zhao complete our trap," Odo asserted. "Let's capture these traitors and offer them to the queen." "A lifetime of nightmares shall be their curse," So Mong pledged. "The graves are shallow here and filled with bones." "Rise up," she commanded, and then the dead began to clamber up from out of the earth, as was her goddess-given power. Rakshasa ruined Wraith's hope for a stealthy approach. In the old days, he would have snuck in quietly, finished his work, and then vanished without a trace. But he could not do that now, not here. "Come on, Fu," he whispered. "We must hurry." Running on for some time, they fled the smoky clearing and its diminishing fires, just as the morning sun broke the horizon. Hanging palm trees and thick jungle foliage surrounded them. Large-leaved bushes, taller than a bear, provided cover, but obscured their vision. Slowing their pace to a hunter's stalking tread, they searched for nearby foes but found none. "Let's catch our breath," Wraith urged. "We must be absolutely quiet from here on in." Crouching low, he picked up a small stick and handed it to Fu. "Draw me a map of the village." "I was here in the spring," Fu said, brushing away the ground litter. He traced out the clearing and the 9 log houses that still stood within it, and then explained. "The meeting lodge is the biggest and strongest building, and it stands here, at the far western corner. The other log houses are scattered between the lodge and us. Many other ruins lay scattered and burned out around them. Ahead of us is the main forest trail. We are only a few hundred paces from the clearing. I can't ask you to go on with me, Wraith said. I stood a chance against the assassin alone, but now things are different. It is likely that I will die. You have proven your honor and your courage. I thought that I would need your help to find this killer, but it seems that he has found us instead. Speak no more of it, Fu affirmed. I am with you until the end. The sun rises, and we stand in the basin of the volcano. In a few minutes, a fog will roll up off the waters of the lake and cloak everything in mist. No one in the village will be able to see any further than a stone's throw until the sun drives it away. Wraith's eyes widened. He smiled from ear to ear. This is the chance that the old woman spoke of. Reaching into his boot, he withdrew a long, slender dirk from its sheath and handed it over. The sisters wear armor such as mine, and you will need a sharp adamant blade to penetrate it. If you use your own weapons, try and aim for their exposed flesh, their feet, or their throats. And the footnote is about adamant, an extremely hard substance. The Dark Elfar weaponsmiths are talented in working with metal alloys of adamantine, which they forge into suits of armor, helms, weapons, and the like. Unfortunately, adamantine deteriorates quickly when exposed to sunlight, and for the purposes of this book, it is not superior in quality to mithril or some alloys of steel. Just like any suit of chainmail, even armor made of adamant can be defeated if the proper combination of force, hardness, and sharpness are applied to it. That's from Webster's Dictionary, as well as inspiration from Gary Gygax's Dungeons and Dragons. Okay. I have never killed anyone before. Wraith could see the conflict in Fu's eyes, a struggle that every warrior with a heart must know. Then you should stay here. These people want us dead above all else, and they won't hesitate. No, Fu declared. I am with you. Don't let their beauty fool you, Wraith instructed. They are the most exotic and beautiful of all women, but they are also ruthless and deadly. A man's life means less than nothing to them. Then let's finish this, Fu declared. The mist is rising. Now ankle deep around them, it spilled off the waters of Lake Volca and across the forest floor. They stalked in. Wraith, now in his element, read the terrain ahead of them expertly, slipping between patches of cover like smoke, with the jungle mist cloaking them with its obscuring wet effluence. Crossing the forest trail, they soon reached the clearing's edge. Log houses stood before them like dark phantoms, memorial monuments rising through the clouds of the volcano. All seemed quiet within. The trap was clear to Wraith, but the mist added uncertainty. Crouching low, Fu heard something approaching along the trail behind them. Their hiding place was good, and so they waited. Firstly, a bleached dome began to form within the mist, and then a wretched arm with dangling leathery skin. Once it was surely human, but now it was only a mindless, revenant corpse, its sole purpose to seek out intruders and destroy them. Eerily, it searched for them, and behind it another one, and another just like it, their teeth clicking often, with fleshless fingers extending and grasping confusedly, as if they knew not why they had risen. Their hollow eye sockets and naked skulls looked about with malice, as their grisly jaws worked impotently in mindless speech, pantomiming the voices that they had once emitted in life. I've angered the gods, Fu muttered in terror. This is the end. Wraith calmed him with a steadying hand, his finger pursing his own lips for silence, urging him to wait and allow the guardians to pass. It seemed then that the mist somehow affected whatever power allowed their horrifying skulls to see, for soon the band of skeletal hunters passed them by. continuing their search along the paths ahead. Slipping back into the fog, Wraith and Fu worked their way toward the meeting lodge. Wraith had yet to discover any of the pits and traps that he had expected, and it worried him. It soon occurred to him that the assassin might not even be in the village. The thickening mist reduced their visibility to a few feet. Now they would have to rely on the memories of what they had recently seen and use their other senses to guide them. How long will it last? An hour, Fu replied. Not more. Down, Wraith signaled. Kneeling low, they listened and waited. Silence reigned. The jungle creatures hushed. Straining to hear something, anything, they slowly became aware of voices just ahead. I don't like it, Odo said. They could be anywhere. Susu, standing behind her, jabbed her back in the kidney area. Hey, Odo explained. He's a master thief, you know. One little poke, and that's it. We should get back to the lodge. Can't you feel them, Susu warned. They are here. Prepare yourself. Powerful beyond mortal imagining, her abilities made her fearless, more so than her other sisters. With her staff, she traced the symbol of power on the ground at her feet and drew a circle of protective magic around herself. Immersed in her ritual, she invoked the spirit of Lothtia, and the space around them began to fill with the powers of sorcery. Casting many spells, neither fear nor fire, nor stone or arrow could harm them. Emboldened by her sister, Odo too stood her ground. Blessed goddess, she prayed, grant me the power to see my enemies. It was then that she saw them truly despite the fog, too late perhaps, as a sudden flash of light blinded her. A bolt of lightning struck her full in the chest, blowing her off her feet. Electricity burned through the mist, revealing both its origin and its target. Wraith hurled another at Susu, but her magic held. Raising her hand toward the heavens, she prepared her own divine flame, but her quarry was on the move. Running eastward, he slipped behind a nearby building. Her hand came down, and the hut burst into flames. Odo, she called, but there was no answer. The battle had begun. Risking a glance toward her sister, she thought that she saw her moving. Odo, she cried out despairingly, but the crackling fire made it difficult to hear. Odo was badly hurt, so severely dazed that she could not focus her mind enough to cast a spell and heal herself. Her death was near, but she was a fighter above all other things. Struggling to open her belt pouch with burned fingers, she prayed that her phials of healing waters were still intact. All feeling had left her fingers, save for a slight awareness of pressure, but the other burns that she had suffered made her cry out in agony. Stifling her tears, she allowed her anger to rise, and by the blessing of Lothtia, her potions were still intact. Removing the cork, she drained a vial and was soon experiencing an all-new level of pain. The elixir was powerful, and its magic began to mend her ruined flesh, restoring nerves, muscles, and skin to their original form. Trying to focus, she waited quietly for her voice to return. Surrender to me, Susu demanded, and I will recommend the lightest sentence for your crimes, life imprisoned. Wraith was no fool. Her words revealed that she did not see him. Silently, he backed away from the firelight and its heat, keeping the building between them. Crouching low, he began walking like a duck, rolling on fully bent thighs, his posterior just above the ground. Unsheathing his dagger, he concealed its glint inside of his left forearm in a reverse grip and began to work his way around, ever watchful for tripwires and other entanglements that he knew had to be there. It was then that a sizable tree trunk sailed through the burning building, exploding timbers and sending fire and sparks before itself. Unfortunately, because of time, we'll have to end there at the bottom of page 134. Have a great night.